Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to walk through a guide to ring chromosome 20 epilepsy. If you're a parent or a family member who's just gotten this diagnosis, it can feel incredibly overwhelming. So this guide is really for you. Okay, so here's our roadmap. We've laid this out to follow the journey you might be on. First, we'll cover understanding the diagnosis itself. Then, how doctors get there. We'll talk about managing seizures, the best treatments available today, what life can look like beyond the seizures, and we're going to end on some real tangible hope for the future. All right, let's dive right in. First up, understanding your child's diagnosis. So what does this actually mean? Getting a handle on the absolute basics is, I think, the most important and empowering first step you can take. So let's break this down. What's really happening on a genetic level? Well, you can think of a normal chromosome like a shoelace, right? It's a line with two distinct ends. In ring chromosome 20 syndrome, the two ends of that specific chromosome, they fuse together. They form a circle, a ring. And it's that change in shape from a line to a ring that is the root cause of the main symptom, which is epilepsy. Just how rare is this? Well, that number you're seeing, 1 in 30 to 60,000, that's for all ring chromosome conditions combined. R20 is actually one of the more common types within that already tiny group. So yes, it is incredibly rare. But the big takeaway here is that while your family's journey is unique, you are definitely not alone in this. Okay, one of the first questions almost every parent asks is, did we cause this? Or where did this come from? And it is so important to hear this. For the vast majority of families, this is not inherited. It's what scientists call a sporadic event, meaning it just happens. It appears for the very first time in your child. This is why talking to a genetic counselor is so valuable, because they can really help you understand the specifics for your family. All right, next up, the path to diagnosis. Let's be honest, getting to a diagnosis for a rare condition can be a really long and frustrating road. So let's talk about what that journey often looks like, from the very first signs to the specific tests that finally give you an answer. This timeline really illustrates something that can be so confusing and, frankly, heartbreaking for parents. You often have a child who has totally normal early development. Everything seems fine. And then, somewhere between the ages of about 4 and 10 on average, the seizures start. And it's usually after the seizures begin that you might start to see some of the cognitive or behavioral challenges pop up. Now, the seizures themselves have some really distinct features. A big one is that they often happen at night and in groups or clusters. They can involve intense fear or visual hallucinations, which is exactly why they so often get mistaken for night terrors. During the day, it might look different, more like staring spells, or what some people call blanking out. And there's another tricky thing called non-convulsive status epilepticus. It's basically a long seizure, but without the typical convulsions or shaking. The child might just seem very confused or foggy for an extended period. Okay, if you take away one thing from this section, let it be this. Getting the right diagnosis absolutely depends on getting the right test. The gold standard is something called a karyotype. Think of it like taking an actual photograph of the chromosomes to see their shape. This is crucial because other common genetic tests, like a microarray, are just looking for missing or extra genetic puzzle pieces. With R20, all the pieces are there. It's just that one of them is the wrong shape, a ring instead of a line. So those other tests can and often do completely miss it. So, once you have the diagnosis, the focus really shifts to managing the day-to-day. And the reality of R20 is that it often involves what's known as drug-resistant epilepsy, which can be a real challenge for families and doctors alike. And this really puts that challenge into perspective. Only about 30% of patients get what doctors call a favorable seizure outcome for medications. And that just means that for 7 out of 10 people, seizures continue to interfere with daily life. This is why the search for better, more effective treatments is just so incredibly important. Okay, so knowing that challenge, let's talk about what does work. What are the best treatment options we have right now, based on the very latest research? This chart is so helpful because it shows us hard data from a major recent study. And look at that, the medication lamotrigine has a 69% response rate. That is huge. Valproate is the next most effective. This isn't just a random list. This is evidence. This is something you can take directly to your child's neurologist and say, hey, let's talk about this. So this table kind of gives us the whole playbook. We've got the top meds we just talked about, but then there are non-drug approaches. The ketogenic diet, especially if started early, can really help some kids. Vagus nerve stimulation, or VNS, that's an implanted device, has also been successful in a few cases. And what's also super important here is what's not recommended. Resective brain surgery is not the answer for R2D. The seizures aren't coming from one single spot, so there's nothing for a surgeon to remove.
All right, let's zoom out a little bit. It's so important to talk about life beyond just the seizures. What's the long-term impact on social life, on independence, and on cognitive skills as a person grows into an adult?
This chart paints a pretty clear and honest picture of the employment landscape for adults with RTCO. You can see that only about a quarter are currently employed. Now, this isn't to be discouraging, but it is to be realistic. It really underscores how crucial it is to start thinking about long-term planning and getting strong support systems in place early on. And this makes sense when you think about it. This chart shows that the vast majority of adults with R20, over 80%, live with their families. And that just reflects the reality that for many, a high level of lifelong care and support is needed. It's a real testament to the incredible dedication of these families. Now, I know those last couple of slides can feel heavy, but the key message here is you do not have to figure this all out by yourself. There are incredible organizations out there like Ring 20 Research and Support UK. They provide resources, they connect you with other families who get it, and they are pushing forward the research that is going to change those very statistics we just looked at. And that brings us perfectly to our last section, and it's my favorite one, Hope on the Horizon. Let's talk about the incredible, cutting-edge research that is genuinely poised to change the future for people with Ring 20. This quote points to a massive breakthrough. You'll hear this word, mosaicism. All that means is the percentage of a person's cells that actually have the ring chromosome. And what scientists have discovered is that if that percentage is lower, the seizure outcomes are usually better. Why does this matter? Because it's a huge step toward being able to give families a much more personalized idea of what to expect. Okay, look at this number, 92%. That is the median reduction in seizures that patients saw in a recent trial for a new cell-based therapy. Now, to be clear, this trial wasn't for R20 specifically, and this is a big but, it was for other types of drug-resistant epilepsy. And its unbelievable success creates a roadmap, a blueprint for a future where this kind of therapy could absolutely help those with R20. And this isn't just a fantasy. The slide shows the real, concrete steps that are happening right now. Therapies like this are moving from those early, promising results into big, rigorous Phase 3 trials. This is how new medicines get approved. It's a long road, for sure, but this shows us there's a tangible path forward to truly game-changing treatments. And really, this is where it's all heading. The ultimate goal is what we call precision medicine. Just imagine a future where treatment isn't a guessing game. It's not trial and error. Instead, a doctor could look at your child's specific genetic profile, their exact mosaicism rate, and tailor a treatment just for them to get the absolute best result. That's not science fiction. That is the future that researchers are actively building today. So, we'll leave you with this final thought. How can we all help speed this up? Because for rare conditions like R20, the breakthroughs don't just happen in a lab in isolation. They happen because of a whole community. Families, researchers, advocates, all pushing in the same direction, raising awareness and demanding progress. That collective effort is what will truly change the future.